Probably the number one thing that I would want to stress to a company reading about ransomware is the fact that it is something that needs to be paid attention to. These companies are using multiple vectors, from cell phones to PCs, emails, to get to your end users. It's easier to go through the end user and get them to cooperate and install malicious software than it is to try to hack the system directly itself. So watching the news articles is a very important first step, and certainly not the last step that should be taken in dealing with ransomware. The most recent trend of actually providing ransomware as a service would be what I would find the most disturbing. It has turned into a cottage industry. So instead of it being software developers that were writing their own, now if you decide you wanted to subscribe to a service much like Office 365, you can run ransomware and not have to have any technical background. I find that to be the most disturbing. It's almost like an entire branch of IT that has its polarity flipped from the good guys to the bad guys. They use the exact same tools, and they're now even using software as a service, albeit ransomware as a service. From an ethical standpoint, no. Paying the ransom does little more than encourage the software providers or the person doing the ransomware attack to proceed to pursue other individuals. If the ransom isn't paid, it's no longer profitable, especially for ransomware as a service. There's no cut. 5% of zero is zero. So I don't believe that from an ethical standpoint, you should pay the ransom. I do understand that there are companies that get themselves into a bad situation. Either their backups were not air-gapped and they lose all of their data to ransomware and they have little choice, but that should never be the first option on the table. There are, in my opinion, two vectors that cause that. One, you have the state actors, which you're not going to get a malicious state to turn over the people that are working for the state for prosecution. You have extradition laws, and the FBI tends to be a little bit reluctant. If the ransom and the attack doesn't cause a certain dollar amount, then they really don't care to act on it. It's just not worth the time. Our company uses a backup system which is air-gapped, meaning that if our systems were attacked and we encountered a ransomware incident, the backups cannot be touched by the ransomware. So we have the ability to spin our backups up in a cloud environment and start cleaning PCs, or basically reformat PCs, the safest way to get our systems back online. It would be a painful process. It would not be our first choice, but that is the cleanest and safest way for us to get back online, is by using a system that air gaps our backups. I don't get into programming, so this would be a weak side of where I come from. I know some of the ransomware attacks that I have witnessed and been a part of the forensics work. The actual ransomware was sent as encrypted PowerShell commands. And this particular one was a solar marker infection that I'm referring to. So it was difficult for us to actually see the code. We got a few bits and pieces here and there, but nothing for us to really go back and do the dissection work on. In reference to the CEH program, I ran through the program about 6 years ago, and through the continuing education that's offered with the CEH program. Most of the ransomware information that I have has evolved from the original program. It was very good. I had a good handle of how ransomware operates, so that I was able to evolve as the ransomware threats have evolved. Whenever I started this, ransomware was primarily an email phenomenon, or you clicked on a bad ad on a website and you got your ransomware. And it has evolved to telephones, cell phones, SMS. So the arena has widened and now we've introduced the ransomware as a service aspect of things. So I feel the CEH program gave me a really good base to start from, with the knowledge of how ransomware operated at the time that I was doing the CEH program.